Well, good afternoon. It is the appointed hour, so I'll call the meeting to order for the October 23rd meeting of the Oklahoma City Riverfront Redevelopment Authority. Item 2 is from the chairman, and I don't have anything today. Item 3 is the minutes. This is the minutes of the August 28th meeting. Any changes or corrections?
Move approval.
Second.
Cast your vote. It passes unanimously. Item 4 is a consent docket. We have an oil and gas revenue report, which looks better than it has in the past, and our river corridor events update. Any questions on either one of those?
Second.
Cast your vote. It passes unanimously. Item 5 is a primary agenda items. Item A is to receive the Oklahoma River Maintenance Project update.
Good afternoon, Chairman and Trustees. I'm Jim Llewellyn with the Public Works Department. We'd had that lightning strike on the Eastern Avenue Dam building. Once we'd gotten all the repairs done, we discovered some additional problems, wiring and some other issues. Those have all been corrected now, and as part of that, we relocated the microwave radio from up on the tower into the building where it'll be more protected now in case of future lightning strikes. On our sedimentation drainage basin, the survey of that area has been delayed due to all the rain and water moving down the river, and also site mobilization issues because of the rain. We anticipate that getting started here shortly, as soon as we can get everything to dry out a little bit. As far as our debris removal on the river, over the last, well, it was between September 8th and October 9th, we pulled out 11.32 tons of debris, primarily floatables, and also mostly out of the western basin. Is there any questions?
The sedimentation basin that's mentioned in here, that's just one of the areas of the river, right?
Yes.
That's west of the May Dam?
Yes, it's west of the May Dam. Okay. And we have a sheet pile weir in there that we use to catch the sediment. And as part of the survey, they go in there and they'll survey that area, and then they also survey areas downstream in the river to see what areas have accumulated the most sediment, so we can go in there and try to be most effective when we get in there and start actually dredging.
So we do check the tributaries in the other basins for sedimentation coming in, or is that an issue in those other basins?
Not so much in the tributaries. Most of the stuff in the tributaries moves fast enough it winds up in the river channel itself. We have identified in the past a couple of tributaries that needed a little bit of cleaning, but the upstream sedimentation basin is the primary focus, but then we also do work in each of the individual basins where we've discovered sediment accumulation.
Okay.
Jim, is that 11.32 tons in a month normal? I can't remember if that's consistent or...
It's actually down a little bit. Normally, unless there's a big event, we've been running somewhere between 17 and 20 tons. Sometimes, after a real heavy rain event, we may wind up with trees and stumps and things like that coming downstream. But this is actually a little bit lighter than it has been.
That's amazing.
Any other questions? In motion to receive the report? So moved. Cast your vote. Passed unanimously. Thank you
very much.
Item B is to receive the quarterly Oklahoma River Cruisers update. Jeannie?
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and trustees. Ridership on ferry service is down significantly this year. Mostly this is due to our shift in programming, where we've shifted our evening ferry service to specialty cruises, which provide a better revenue generator and higher ridership levels. We've also had some heavy cancellations due to rain events. Cancellations are up significantly. In 2017, year-to-date, we were at 160. This year, we're at 273. So we've had quite a few more cancellations. Most of it is due to large amounts of rainfall that bring a lot of debris. We discovered it's more cost-effective to cancel service than to pay $1,500 for each prop that gets damaged with the debris. Programming changes included the elimination of evening ferry, as I said, and we added instead, at the recommendation of HMS Ferries, the two specialty cruises in the evening. One's a river tour, the other is a cocktail cruise, and they typically sell out. The cocktail cruises sell out. The river tours sell very well. They don't always sell out, but they do provide us with a significant increase in the number of passengers during those hours and at a stronger revenue level. So the river tour ran Fridays in May and Fridays and Saturdays June through September, and the cocktail cruises ran Friday and Saturday June through September. So what happens in October, if you don't already know? We do Haunt the River. And Haunt the River has been sold out for a few weeks now. So the entire month of October was completely sold through by the first week of October. We get requests to be put on waiting lists. This is a very strong event for Oklahoma River cruises, and it's a lot of fun to put on. Year-to-date charters are down just slightly from prior years. We have 67 charters thus far compared to 70 in 2017 and 78 in 2016. Weather has had an impact on charter bookings. I think this is probably the first year we've had to cancel more charters due to weather than we have in any other year, just because nobody wants to go out in pouring rain, and we certainly don't want to be traveling out in bad weather. On August 4th, Discover Oklahoma came out and rode the History Comes Alive cruise. On Saturday morning, Mike Sheriff was a drover. Don't call him a cowboy. He says that's a derogatory term from actually from the Revolutionary War, of all things. But he's a drover. He did a full demonstration on the activities of a drover and the life of a drover, talked about the Chisholm Trail and other activities. This was filmed and then shown on their Saturday evening television show on September 15th. If you missed it, it's on their website. And with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions for Jeannie?
Jeannie, are you happy with the schedule changes, or do you think we should go back to what we did before? Or
I think we're pretty happy with what we have now.
Okay.
We may, we used to do a lot of specialty cruises, and it created a huge burden on our expenditures with not a great revenue return. Joe Acevedo with HMS did a wonderful job getting the budget under control, getting expenses down to control, and then gradually, incrementally adding profitable specialty cruises. It would be nice to be able to offer more evening ferry to take people to the hotel district at Meridian, but the ridership is so low that it's a very expensive operation to have. We may get there one day. I know Joe's marketing crew spends time out at the hotels trying to promote ridership from that area, and I think we'll be able to grow that market eventually, but for the time being, we really have to watch our costs and make sure we're covering as much of the expenses as possible.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Motion to receive the report?
Second.
Cast your vote. Passed unanimously. Thank you, Jeannie. Item C is to receive the presentation on the GO bond improvements to Manuel Perez Park on Southeast 17th Street.
Good afternoon, trustees. Doug Cupper, Parks and Recreation Director. As you know, we came to you all to recommend that we relocate the Manuel Perez Park. I can get it to work. Okay, stay there. The new Manuel Perez Park is on the south side of the river. It's within the leaseholds of the River Redevelopment Trust. It functionally goes from Robinson all the way over to the channel, to the far eastern edge of the map there, outlined in red. Majority of it between Shields and Robinson used to be part of the Wiley Post Park system, and then most everybody knew the other portion is the Rose Circle. That's where the old Compass art piece used to be on display until it got relocated to Regatta Park. It's approximately 36, 38 acres in size. We started meeting with the Friends of Manuel Perez pretty close to a year ago, talking to them about what their expectations might be for that park and what elements that they would like to see created within that park. Obviously, the whole point of Manuel Perez is the fact that a young man serving in World War II distinguished himself to the point of receiving the highest honor that the military gives to their servicemen, and that's the Medal of Honor. The whole concept for the new Manuel Perez Park is to celebrate that sacrifice that he did, the ultimate sacrifice, and the heroic efforts that he did during World War II. But they actually, the Friends of Manuel Perez, thought it'd be poignant to be here in the capital city to actually recognize all 30 people that have received the highest honor that the state of Oklahoma has. There's native sons, and then there are those people that chose to relocate to Oklahoma before they served in the military and, again, received the highest honor. So there will be 30 Medal of Honor recipients, to include Manuel Perez, at this location. This is the rendering that we are currently working off of with our design consultants. The center blue field with the white stars is a representation of the actual ribbon of the Medal of Honor as it's placed around recipients' necks or given to family members if they're deceased. The other panels there are depicting the different branches of the military and pretty much their credos, as since the majority of the 30 served almost all the branches in the military. Again, we're resurrected. We're going to plant trees in this area. You can see that we have planned for shaded areas to sit in respite and think about what that space is there for. Some of the things outside of this element, we will have a large-scale shelter building. See if it catches it. There it goes. Again, depicting some of the heritage that we are trying to represent and recognize in this portion of the river. The picnic shelter will accommodate 240 people. We think that it's going to be a good venue for activities for the south side and actually even some of the residents adjacent to Scissortail, not to compete with Scissortail, but as an added advantage, because this is basically at the south end of Scissortail Park and Wiley Post Park. But we think that Cinco de Mayo and some of the other celebrations that currently occur in the Capitol Hill area may be relocated to Manuel Perez Park, so we wanted to make sure that we accommodate that. We actually are in communications with a couple of our, I want to call them prefab picnic shelters, but the people that have expertise in quality shelters that we've bought from before. They have actually offered us the Spanish tile as a new feature. They hadn't been offering it before, so we may be the first in the country from some of those companies to actually use Spanish tile. Now, we're talking synthetics. We're not talking the actual clay. I don't think I could afford that. And again, stimulating play features in the park with vibrant colors, again recognizing the heritage that we're trying to celebrate in this portion of the park system. A lot of vibrant colors, a lot of activities, a lot of seating areas and shaded areas where families can come and enjoy themselves at the park. We're really excited about this, and we think that it's going to be a great advantage to the community as a whole. Some of the other aspects that we're going to be adding to the Manuel Perez Park, we're going to do a couple of futsal courts and one basketball court. We are working with the donation from the McLaughlin Family Foundation. We will do the slab through the GO project, but the finishing touches are coming from the Griffin Brothers Foundation. Both of them play professional basketball. One of them is still actively playing basketball. They will pay for the surfacing on the basketball courts. The Tim McLaughlin Foundation has a relationship with U.S. Soccer, and U.S. Soccer has given them a large grant funding to help create futsal activities in Oklahoma City. So they will be paying for the goals and the surfacing of the 2 futsal courts. So we're going to be able to extend the use of our 2007 GO bond monies by hopefully getting this donation approved by City Council in the very near future. When we're meeting with the skating community to start the design phase for 2 new skate elements in the park system, one at Stars and Stripes Park and one at not Shields. Having a senior moment, I apologize. We have another one going into the rec center, which will be a teaching skate element that our recreation staff are already lining up instructors to teach safe skating activities. When we had that meeting with the skating community, they told us that the Matt Hoffman is a great BMX bike skate element because Matt Hoffman was a BMXer, not a skateboarder. So we took that as an opportunity, and we're going to expand actual streetscape type of skating elements at the Matt Hoffman facility so that the BMXers can continue to do their thing in the major part of Matt Hoffman, but we're going to have quite an element for the skateboarders. They can still use the bowls, but these will be street elements, stairs, rails, things along those lines that they can do their thing on as well. So we're quite excited about it. We're anticipating spending close to $2 million just on the Manuel Perez side of the park. That right now does not include the donation from the McLaughlin Family Foundation as it relates to the surfacing, the fencing, and the goals of the futsal and basketball courts. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
This morning you said skateboarding is one of the fastest growing sports in the United States.
Yeah, skateboarding is still one of the fastest growing sports. A fast up-and-comer is pickleball, believe it or not.
Where are the restrooms?
I forgot to mention that the restrooms will be right off the Matt Hoffman, a little to the south and west of the Matt Hoffman, next to the parking lot. We are building public restrooms, actual restrooms for Manuel Perez Park.
Any other questions? Thanks, Doug.
Thank you all.
Need a motion to receive the report?
So move.
Cast your vote. Passes unanimously. Item D is to receive a presentation on the temporary signs related to a joint City of Oklahoma City Community Foundation project for our landscaping and trees.
Again, Doug Hupper for the record. As you all know, the Community Foundation saw fit to recognize their 50th year of existence by helping us improve the river corridor again. And we want to make sure that people know what's happening, because we will have equipment out on the river trail, the north side of the river trail, in these zones. We've got to get the 1,000 trees in there and things along those lines. So we're recommending the approval of these signs that will be put up temporarily to explain what is going on there and show how these 1,000 trees will be distributed along that section of the river, as well as the sculptured High Plains prairie that we are going to establish in this zone as well. And I'm sure that if I can't answer the question, Brian can be happy to answer any questions.
Questions? Cast your vote. Passes. Item E. Receive a presentation from the Boathouse Foundation on the proposed improvements funded using excess collections from the Capital Improvement Sales Tax Fund. Mike?
Good afternoon. It's Mike Canapo, Executive Director of the Oklahoma City Boathouse Foundation. As we get started, I would like to quickly introduce Sandeep Kandel here. He is with us through a project between the State Department and University of Oklahoma. It's like a business exchange program. He's from Nepal, and his business is the Himalayan Adventure Labs. He came all the way to Oklahoma to see our adventure operation, and we're working together, learning from each other, and it's great to have him on board for a few weeks here, so he gets to see all this in action. So,
Mike, thank you for taking that on. It's a really great program. I know
great program, yes.
I've done that as well, and it's just fabulous, so thank you so much.
Well, I'm pleased to be able to present this, our surplus funds proposal that was heard before Council this morning. And it's a $7.9 million, is that you or me? Okay. Let me go back. There we go. That was, it's a $7,941,000 series of projects. These were designed and conceived to strategically create return on investment, for the river, the Oklahoma City Boathouse Foundation, in terms of helping support our operations, the sustainability of the operations down there, and frankly, further advance this momentum that I think has been really powerful, making the Boathouse District is one of Oklahoma City's key differentiators, and we've seen that time and time again in terms of how this, I think Sandeep's coming to Oklahoma City is one of those things, the fact that this is something that is truly different than no other city has what we have, and we think it's very powerful as we look to the future. So these projects are meant to also further enhance and propel that. We really talk about return on investment also in terms of the community and how this will further elevate the river as far as engaging the community in the various different activities. And one of the things I do want to really emphasize is the economic impact of what is happening with the development. $23 million annual economic impact. We did, through the Alliance for Economic Development, commission a study, and with a company out of some consultants from Chicago, and they deemed the actual direct economic impact being $23 million. Of course, there's a lot of indirect impact being from the image, the retention of people in Oklahoma, and also the recruitment of business and people to Oklahoma City, which we think is pretty powerful. $90 million plus in private investment that is coming as a result, and then all of this off of a $7 million annual budget from the Oklahoma City Boathouse Foundation. I also put in there the U.S. Olympic and Paralympic Training Site designation. I think that's very important to recognize that through these efforts, and you all have been a part of this, and recall that back in about 2009, through some successful events and kind of establishing the river as a very viable and proving world-class potential for the river, we were deemed a U.S. Olympic and Paralympic Training Site. We've had athletes that have gone from Beijing to London to Rio, now hopefully Tokyo, and with a big focus on LA. But that's a very important brand that we have as a result of our efforts. And last week, I spent the week last week in Colorado Springs with the U.S. Olympic Committee, and they continue to reiterate the importance of Oklahoma City. We were one of only 2 locations in the country to host the Next Olympic Hopeful initiative, which is one of the U.S. Olympic Committee's primary new initiatives moving forward to basically inspire and attract the next generation of athletes into the Olympic movement, because frankly everyone's really focused on LA. So we were one of only 2 locations. That program is going to grow. They're very pleased with how it turned out in Oklahoma City, and you will be able to watch that on NBC on Thanksgiving. This will be showcasing and it really puts us in a, I can't spoil it, but we were a big part of that. So it's exciting to see our role moving forward, and that's something that all of what we've done has helped put us in this position to be able to maintain and continue to grow that. That's just one of the many things that we do. Of course, I mentioned the economic impact study by HVS, and then the guest feedback has played an important role in how we look to the future, and we survey guests. That's a part of our normal operation, whether it be river sport guests, people that come to our events. You can hear, one of the primary things we hear over and over again is related to they'd love to see more. That people love coming to the Boathouse District. They love the experience, but frankly, they would like to see more activities. Some of the things that were originally in the plan early on that had to be value engineered out were very important. They were in there for a reason early on. Adding water features for kids, just more things for people to do. You get wet in River Sport Rapids. We need to have more things that you can get wet on. We need to have more things for the 8 and under crowd to be involved in. That will then engage families and encourage families to come out, which we think is really important. We have a zip line that only 30 people an hour can go on. When you have 1,200 people rafting in a day, that's challenging. So we want to make sure people have a great experience, and I say it truly is intergenerational. We have a lot of obviously pictures and information from all sides of our programs. I picked this one out just to emphasize it's for all ages. I mean, we always hear we're on people's bucket list, so we want to continue to emphasize and advance that. And then outdoor industry feedback, another side of what we are, I think is very, very powerful, and I've mentioned this before, is this came from the trade show, the top outdoor industry trade show for paddle sports in America, saying things like more spills and thrills than any that they've ever seen in one place. And that was one of the things. They were very skeptical coming here. They were a little nervous, but once the industry showed up, they had the best show ever. And it has been repeated in magazines and articles and social media. So they're coming back, and it's going to be larger. But what this does is really powerful. It not only fills up the convention center, and will fill up the new convention center, but it's what people say about Oklahoma City. It's when you have those primary outdoor brands raving about their experience in Oklahoma City, and the vendors and the retailers from the REI and the Dick's Sporting Goods of the world, changes perceptions. That creates new opportunity, and I think that's very powerful. And like I said, they had the only place in the world, in the country, for sure, that they could be on whitewater and flatwater in one day right next to each other. So that all goes into the mix. And so the strategic request through the MAPS 3 surplus funds was to address increased throughput, to enhance the sustainability, enhance the guest experience in the stay by having more things for people to do. They stay longer and they have a better experience. We've had great reviews, but we think it can be even much better. Create new revenue opportunities through efficiencies, and then continue to advance that outdoor culture. Whoa, let me go back real quick. Okay, so the primary projects are, we've got the Special Event Leadership Center, the adventure attractions, and whitewater improvements. I'm going to touch on those. The Leadership Center, and all of these are in these locations in the Boathouse District generally. The Leadership Center will be on the second floor of the Whitewater Center. In fact, what you see there is the fire pit area, which I do want to mention. Ribbon cutting is on Wednesday at 2 o'clock, and we encourage you, if you can, to stop by. It really is a beautiful addition, the McClendon Plaza, which will really enhance what we're proposing, what we're going to do on the second floor. And so we have a slab on the second floor, and this is what it looks like today. It's an 8,000 square foot space that can become a special event center, be the largest space we have down there, but even more importantly and powerful, a leadership center. And so we've studied this extensively. We've actually had the Disney Institute folks in town who have said there's really no place anywhere that combines these quintessential metaphorical leadership experiences, whitewater rafting, ropes courses, rowing, the key teamwork-related sport, and the Olympic brand all in one spot and in a downtown area. So capturing that in a space with facilitators, we think can be very powerful, and frankly, bringing folks to Oklahoma City, so there'll be an economic impact. Beyond that, though, we also see it as having a kids component. So kids throughout Oklahoma City getting to go through this really special leadership program. And so that is to come on the second floor. And so you can see there is a return on investment. We felt like it's a fairly conservative look at what this could be like, 1-, 2-, and 3-day programs, again, for net operating income of at least $300,000. We think that, again, is conservative once this really gets up and running. But that does make a big impact on the Boathouse Foundation as we operate. One of our big issues has been seasonality, what to do in the winter as we're getting into this phase. We've had a tremendous amount of rain, as Jeannie had referenced in that operation. We've all felt it, and so having more things that are inside and really could be done year-round is important. The high-capacity zip lines and climbing attractions are another component, adding more. There's new technology where we can get more people through a zip line system going east-west, not against the prevailing wind, which will help. And then, again, climbing attractions and other features. I will show you, this is an image from the original plan with the Whitewater Center, and it showed a prominent climbing feature right in the center that had to be, again, value engineered out. We want to bring that back in, or some form of that. That's a big part of the Charlotte venue, which we based our pro forma off on. It was climbing features, and so having that in the mix, and then water features as well. And just the zip line alone, we've studied that, and we believe in year one that can be about a $400,000 impact through the throughput that can come through that. And there's a lot of side elements to that, photos, and people love to have their photos taken. So there's that piece as well. The next one is more of an operational enhancement, efficiency, filtration improvements and capacitors. I will note at the top two pictures, the one on the left is how the water really looks today, brownish, totally clean. We treat it, but it's turbid. There's a turbidity factor because of our dirt and our dust. We had helicopter training, which was great to provide that service, but boy, it stirs things up, and it goes in there, and it's very difficult to get all that out. The right-hand side is our magic with some dye that we've put in, and it just doesn't last very long, but we've tried to combat it as best we can. They don't make a pool vacuum large enough in the world to try to vacuum an 8.2 million gallon pool. So we want to attack it with better filtration, and we believe we can. This picture here is Charlotte, North Carolina, and this is just one day after Hurricane Florence came through. That's how their water looked, and they had a tremendous amount of runoff, and it's because they installed a new filtration system, which is on the right, a sand filtration system. Those people have been here in Oklahoma City. They've seen our system. We're much farther along than they were when they installed this. We just need a little help. And so they guarantee us, can you guarantee we can see the bottom? And they told me they can. So it'll be very much an enhancement once that is complete. The capacitors are designed to kind of help ease, when we turn all these pumps on, it helps with that process in terms of the amount of energy that is expended, and we'll just essentially make our system more efficient to the tune of at least $90,000 a year, $90,000 to $100,000 we believe in energy savings, which is very important. That's obviously one of our largest expenses is the pumps. And then we get into other projects, the water play and climbing features, the theater, the trail and paving improvements, the shade structures. There's a lot here, and I just want to highlight a few things. We're currently going to be designing these things, but they will capture the essence of some of these things you see here, which include elements for adults and kids to be involved in water, different activities. The bottom right picture I just show you was the model of our Whitewater Center we created, and I wish we would have been able to save that because it was a great model. And we envisioned something that people could interact with as a water play feature. So bringing that alive with spray features, pool elements, things like that, we believe we can do. See a little standing surf wave there and climbing, again, more climbing features. So that is something that we will be working on. We think will be very popular, among the most requested items in the district. The next thing is improving river access. That was one of the primary requests from the paddle sport retailer shows, to have an access point from the whitewater to the river so you can go back and forth. There's an area that to do this, it's shown in the bottom left-hand picture, and adding docks so people can come off the water. We can actually have flat water kayaking right there next to the whitewater, and really enhance, and we're looking ahead for river cruiser stops too, where we could get off a river cruiser and come into the whitewater. So that is a part of the thought process. And then more shade structure is very important. We need more shade, and some operational improvements to the food and beverage facility. It's a little, we've learned a lot in the last couple of years, and so we feel like there's some improvements that are really needed that can be addressed here. Some landscaping, and then security and lighting improvements. So that really represents what's in the scope of that $7.9 million series of projects. We believe it's at least a $3.5 million impact in terms of when you combine the actual return on investment for us in terms of just the revenue generated for the foundation, but also all of the events and the other opportunities that will come from that. So with that, I'll take any questions you might have.
Mike, are there any exploratory talks with more formal restaurant, private restaurant or facilities?
There are. I mean, part of what we're trying to do is create more density and more year-round activities, which will make it more attractive for those commercial opportunities to come. There has been interest, and that's just one of the things, is the seasonality piece, and I think we're trying to address that here as best we can, and I think we strongly believe that it will come. Yeah.
Any other questions for Mike? Okay.
All right.
Motion.
Thank you.
Cast your vote. Passes unanimously. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
Okay. Item F is to receive a presentation from City Care on design concepts for renovation and repurposing of the shop building located at Crystal Lake Park. We have Adam Luck with us today.
Yes.
Welcome, Adam.
Good afternoon, trustees. Thank you so much for the opportunity to be here today. I have the opportunity to serve as the CEO of City Care, and I'm here today just to give you a brief update on some planned improvements we have out at Crystal Lake. Just by way of introduction, we have a couple other programs as well. So we have 110 units of permanent supportive housing for the homeless in Oklahoma City in the West Lawn Gardens neighborhood. We also operate Oklahoma City's only low-barrier day shelter in partnership with the Homeless Alliance. And we also have the Whiz Kids program, which is the faith-based mentoring and literacy tutoring program, and we serve about 925 kids a week through that program. So about 8 years ago, we took on responsibility for operations and maintenance of Crystal Lake and have since done improvements out there. I came on board last year and just immediately began, obviously, a strategic overview of all of our programs and which direction they were headed. And Crystal Lake we saw as an opportunity to kind of double down our investment in this outdoor space and eventually tie it into our Whiz Kids program and make that program year-round. So to that end, we formed a Crystal Lake committee that is made up of several of our board members and community members, and kind of laid out a 3 to 5 year plan for making some planned improvements out there. And one of the top priorities was converting this shed space into some indoor classroom space. You can go to the next slide, please. Thank you. So this is the south side of the building. It's a 4,800 square foot shed. Right now we use it mostly for storage for the archery range and a few other things. We've got it cleared out at this point. And currently we, for the last 7 years, have had a camp out there that we serve about 100 kids a week through the Whiz Kids program. And it's a 3-5 day summer camp. And really right now there's no indoor space for them. So that's kind of why we prioritize this ahead of everything else. So we wanted to create some indoor classroom space. So we've got some individual spaces, and we've also got a large space, a kitchen area, and some restroom facilities in addition to the restrooms that we've already built out by the gazebo. Go to the next slide. This is the west side of the building near the archery range. Go to the next slide again. Thank you. So this is just a preliminary drawing, and like I said, we just last month kind of finished these drawings. We're in the very, very early stages of this, but wanted to take this opportunity to come and kind of put this on your all's radar and let you know that this is kind of the plans, the direction that we're moving. So Again, right now, this is really just empty storage space, so we'll be building all of this structure inside. There's some existing structure where you see the restrooms and the kitchen, but most of that will be new build-out as well. You can go to the next slide. So these are just some basic renderings of what we think this building will look like. Our goal would be for this to be completed by next summer, so looking at construction beginning first quarter of next year. We're still in the process of bidding out the work and seeing exactly how much this improvement is going to cost. But our goal would be for this to be ready for the summertime, for our summer kids, summer of 2019. So we can go to the next slide. And this is the north side of the building facing the lake. So that's pretty much it. Just wanted to come and let you all know that this is kind of the direction that we're heading. Our main focus moving forward is going to be on building out infrastructure, so some high-low elements, building on the existing infrastructure in the fishing dock. We've got some kayak areas out there right now. We have the archery range. We want to finish out a soccer field and just make the greenery around there, make some improvements to the greenery area around there. And then from our perspective, CityCare would really like to dedicate resources to staffing this. Currently, we don't have any dedicated staff members for this. So moving forward, we want to increase infrastructure, dedicate some staffing to this, and eventually incorporate it into our Whiz Kids program so that we're transporting kids out here Monday through Friday to spend time out there with their tutors, all while maintaining public access and continuing our commitment to maintain the facility to the standards of city parks. So with that, I will welcome any questions.
Adam, did you build that building originally?
I
Or
don't
was it-
believe that we did. I believe it was an existing facility,
Existing.
so it is owned by the city.
Okay.
I think for somebody that's just followed Crystal Lake for a long time, I just think this is great if you can create some indoor space. That's one of those things that's always been missing, and I think utilizing something that's already there, if it can be. I saw that you have Bruce Bacchus as architect, which I think will give some really good guidance to where it needs to be.
Yep.
So.
Thank you, Brian.
Can you explain the timeline and funding for the soccer field you were talking about?
Yes, absolutely. So this is a field that we have already made one run at to get up and running, and it didn't go well. Part of the reason we identified that it didn't go well is because we didn't have infrastructure to water the grass. So we were doing it through some pumping that wasn't necessarily designed for that size of a field, and we had to move it around. And again, without existing staff member out there maintaining it, it was hard to get somebody out there and move it around. So at this point, we've kind of reassessed and reprioritized and said, maybe 2019, 2020, looking beyond that, we would reassess that green area in that field. Top priority in terms of where we want to be and what we want to do, serving the kids that are already going to come out next summer, we felt like this was going to be a top priority. So as I mentioned, this Crystal Lake Committee has met twice. They met in August and September. We've identified and have commitments for a couple funding sources thus far, but we're still in the process of figuring out exactly how much this is going to cost and creating a budget for that. So I feel like once we've got that in place, we'll begin in earnest pursuing funding sources first quarter of next year and see where we go from there. So underlying all of that is a general support from our board and an interest in investing more in Crystal Lake and having it make more sense from our organization's perspective in terms of how we utilize this for existing programs and what our plan is moving forward.
Any other questions? I'll just make one comment on, it's later on in the director's report, but there's a comment that they've met with CityCare in the maintenance and upkeep of the Crystal Lake Park. They've committed to make sure that's maintained in the standard that we do for the rest of our parks around town.
Yes.
And we really appreciate your taking that on. So
Absolutely.
it'd be very nice. Okay, need a motion? Cast your vote. Passes unanimously. Thank you, Adam.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Item G is to receive the Oklahoma City Community Foundation Charitable Organization Endowment Fund Report for fiscal year ending 2018. This is our annual report of our fund and the check that we received this year for $45,653.
Mr. Chairman, in the interest of full disclosure, I serve on the committee that invests your funds with the Community Foundation and chaired it for several years. So if anyone has any questions, comments, criticisms, I'd be glad to answer it or get you answers.
Okay.
Just a comment, we've heard your name, or we've heard the Community Foundation's name twice over the course of this meeting and being so generous to the river, and we really appreciate it. Please extend our thanks.
Any other questions? Motion? Motion to receive? Second. Ask your vote. It passes unanimously. Okay, item H is to receive revocable permit for Art Pyrotechnics for Leukemia and Lymphoma Society Like the Night on October 26th. This was up last month for us to approve, but since we didn't have a meeting, it went on to council. It has already been approved, so that's why we're simply receiving the permit. Any questions?
Second.
Cast your vote, and it passes. Item I is a resolution approving a one-time waiver of our river rule prohibiting a single permit event from using both sides of the Oklahoma River Trail. This is for a upcoming event in 2019, mid-2019. Kathy, your committee?
Our committee met last month and discussed this, and we looked at this as an opportunity to reach out in the community in areas that we normally do not reach, even though it's on both sides of the river. So our committee recommends accepting and approving this resolution.
Just a couple of comments from me. Some of the things that made me agree to this, let me start off by saying we enacted those rules to help the general public who had complaints about the fact that both sides of the river were closed for the last event, and it kind of limited the use of the general public, and it is a general public area. But a couple of things that was brought up in the meeting that made me decide to try it one more time is that it's starting early in the morning, and it's a very limited, short duration event that morning, and there was a commitment made to have enough volunteers along both sides of the river at the entrances to let the public that's coming down know that the event is happening, but it's not going to happen for very long, and then as soon as the last riders get past a certain point, those volunteers will allow will tell them that so on and so forth. So those conditions made me think, well, let's try it and see. But I don't, I'll be very cautious to do this very often because we put that rule in place for a reason. So we have a recommendation from the committee to provide a one-time permit for this. Any other questions? Cast your vote. It passes unanimously. Okay. Claims docket, item 9. Any questions?
Move approval.
Cast your vote. It passes unanimously. Doug, anything off of your director's report other than what's written?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. No, I think it's been a pretty good season. Obviously, you already mentioned the work we were doing with City Care to make sure that we are working in tandem to try to make sure Crystal Lake Park stays the quality facility that we want it to be. So we're happy to answer any questions. We recommend that you receive the report as written.
Motion to receive?
Second.
Cast your vote. Passes. Any comments by trustees? Any citizens to be heard? Very good. We are adjourned.